The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
Sim racing fans, and welcome to round number 6 on the road to the peak antifreeze season. I'm everyone alongside Randy Chenoweth and Cisco Scaramuza here to bring you the race tonight. We're at Darlington, the track too tough to tame. And Randy, for these guys, the road to the Nascar Peak Antifreeze Series has to go through South Carolina. And this track, it's going to be one tough customer for drivers who are trying to make it to the big stage.
Darlington's always one of the toughest circuits on the schedule. There's a handful of difficult ones that they have coming up. The first half of the schedule really started out pretty calm for these guys. Texas into Phoenix into Homestead, Auto Club in Atlanta. Really just, a lot of cookie cutter tracks in there. A lot of tracks that guys should be really comfortable at. But the last half of this championship gets really difficult, and a lot of championships are going to be made or broken in these next handful of weeks. Darlington into Sonoma, into Richmond, into Dover, into Daytona. There's going to be a lot of happy campers and a lot of not so happy campers once we get to the end of the new year, beginning of the new year.
Yeah, because we're getting toward the point to where these guys, they may go home for the holidays, they may take a little bit of a break, but it's going to be right back to Sonoma at the turn of the 2018 year. And then it's off to Richmond, like you said, and then Dover, and then Daytona. So a wide variety of tracks for these guys. And now they're up onto the grid. And I tell you what, Randy, these drivers are hungry. Right now, Nicholas Shelton's leading the points, but it's going to be Brad Davies leading them to the green flag here from P1. Keegan Leahy in the second position. David Rattler, Jarl Tien, and Mitchell Hunt round out your top 5.
Starting in 6th, we're going to have Jacob Harbert, Colton Davis in 7th, Garrett Lowe 8th, Nicholas Morse 9th, and Casey Kerwin will round out your top 10.
Jake Nichols, Glenn Rockenfeller, Tyler Hudson, Adam Benefield, Brandon Pipgrass round out your top 15. All drivers who struggled here to get on the grid here inside the top 10, but it's a lot of talent through that back half of the top 15.
The talent continues as you go down the order. Blade Witt starts 16th, Jeremy Davis 17th, Jesse Schwartz 18th, Michael Johnson 19th, and Blake Bryan will round out your top 20.
Going through the rest of your field very quickly, Robbie Vrabel Jr. in the 21st position, Dallas Patotska in the 22nd spot, James Curl, Kevin King, Brandon Bulow, Stephen Wilson, Michael Guest, and James Millebachler round out your top 28. Patrick Mallet and Michael Garigla, first time commentating for the Pro Series, so gonna have to get used to some names. You guys are all used to them.
We'll just call him Ray Alfala.
Let's not go with that. Kane Cook in the 31st position, Benjamin Nelson, Nathan Lyon, and the terror of the B-Car Series, Malik Ray, rounds out your 34-car field.
As these guys get ready to head off into turn number 3 and 4, Gabe, I think this is going to be a good one. Darlington always produces good racing. If we can get some long green flag runs tonight, some interesting tire strategy, especially the new build. First time I've seen these cars around this place on this new build. Should be a nice 134 laps of action.
iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car comes to pit road, and it's going to be the start of 134 laps here tonight at Darlington, South Carolina. Green flag in the air. 34 cars will roll down into turn number 1. The 20 of Brad Davies will lead them all. He's going to go off into turn number 1 with a great head of steam. He's going to get off to about a 2-car length lead by the time they get into turns 1 and 2.
All up and down the field, everyone is just scrambling to get single file. Not a lot of jockeying for position, really. People go +1, -1. They don't really seem to care. Everyone wants to get in a single groove. One car slow down the back straight on the inside. That is James Millbacher coming out of corner number 2. I think he may have gotten a little bit loose, but that car doesn't look right as he rolls into 3 and 4.
Still not under power is the number 28 machine. Looks like he's finally getting it under control, but a lot slower than the rest of the field. He's going to drop back all the way to the last position. Meanwhile, Brad Davies checking out on the field so far here on lap number 2. He led the first lap. Now, as you said, everybody single file. It looks like back to maybe even past outside the top 30. Looks like we're side by side for the 30th spot with Nathan Lyon and Benjamin Nelson battling just to get inside the top 30 with Malik Ray in the number 34 machine following behind him.
A lot of close fights already up and down the field. That's what you're going to get when these guys fan out single file as quickly as possible. I think a number of these drivers here tonight realize that, well, you need to get good points. Just looking at the rest of the schedule, there's a lot of, you know what, I can end up in the wall really easily racetracks coming up, and this really being the first one. Not surprised to see a number of people going super safe, just getting single file, and really, like, not really a lot of close fights. There's a lot of cars close to one another, but no one really pushing each other too hard just yet.
Everybody wants to maintain positions right now. It looks like, looking back through the field here, looks like Glenn Rockefeller, he's trying to get the run down, down into the 10th position, but Nicholas Morris, he's running that high lane. He's been trying to run that bottom, the 30 machine has, of Glenn Rockefeller, but it just hasn't been working out for him. And back to your point of getting as many points as you can, is looking back to Brad Davies, checking out 1.6 seconds on the field as we got a battle for second here, as we got a little checkup where Keegan Leahy, Gerald Tian on the outside, the number 6 machine, he's going to take over the runner-up spot.
Yeah, it was a good move by Jarl. I think that Keegan Lee, not very good coming off corner number 4, and Jarl had a run. Keegan really didn't fight him for it. This time, David Rattler, he's also looking at the inside of that number 12 machine, but not quite able to get there through 3 and 4. Looks like Keegan maybe struggling just a little bit here, but actually coming off corner number 4, he looked quite good. So just gave up that spot to Jarl. I think maybe just had a bad turn 3, turn 4 section of the racetrack. Didn't want to fight it too hard, and Jarl's already starting to break his way as well. So you have Brad, who's already out closing in on a 2-second gap, and Jarl starting to already check out from Keegan as well.
Going to check to see what the lap times are going to be between Brad and Jarl as the 1 and 2 positions. Keegan's starting to get that position back. He's starting to kind of get back under him, but still he's holding up those guys in 4th and 5th who are trying to get past him. Time at the line, looks like Jarl's actually catching him, so he may have a battle for the lead if he can keep the momentum under him. But back to what I was saying, all roads for the Pro Series always lead to Daytona, Randy. So as many points as you can get, if you're on the cusp of making the top 10, it's make or break when you unload the car in Daytona.
That's one of the things that's so stressful about this schedule, is that most people are used to having 1 or 2 sort of off tracks in that schedule. You know, you might have Sonoma and Daytona and maybe Richmond or maybe a Darlington, but just the number of off tracks that are lead in toward the end of this championship, it's just such a crapshoot about who can put themselves in the right position. You're absolutely right. Daytona, I mean, you could go through Darlington, Sonoma, Richmond, and Dover, get really good results, have yourself in a good, you know, near transfer spot getting into the Peak Series next season, and then Daytona could come out in that final race and you could find yourself in a big one really, really early on. So it's just entire second half of the championship. The points, they look relatively stagnant now, but a couple 100-point swings can swing either way really easily, really quickly.
Something that's swinging right now is the gap between Jarl and Brad Davies. They're up at the front, because it was 1.7 by the time they came by the start-finish line last time by. 1.4 now. Let's see what it's going to be as they come into turn number 3 and 4. And we're going to see what the gap is. Looks like Keegan Leahy is starting to close in just a little bit more. That's not going to be enough to get that runner-up position from Jarl T. And 1.1 seconds the gap. So Brad Davies has burned up his stuff here in the early going. May just be trying to see what he can get away with on the initial start.
Might also just have a very early run set up in that number 28 machine, as he currently still leads the way, but you still have Jarl reeling him in as they roll through 3 and 4 right here. You know, this is one of those tracks, Darlington, it seems to always swing one of 2 extremes. It's never a track where you have a nice balanced number of cautions. You either have almost no yellows and you get a lot of green flag running in, or you get just a yellow fest, and maybe Brad Davies expecting a lot of yellow flags coming out here tonight, running a short run setup under that 28 machine, and maybe not quite panning out for him, is like the Jarl Teenan and Keegan Lay reeling him in quickly now, 3/10 last time through. Could also be that Brad's just taking care of his stuff, pushed really hard to open up a gap, but decided maybe just time to just cruise here with my race lead, but that gap's come down quickly.
Before that battle gets underway here, because it's going to come in just a few moments, 3/10 now closed in that last lap. We're going to look back outside your top 5, back to almost outside the top 10 now. Looks like we got a little battle brewing between Garrett Lowe, the drill spill machine, and the 20 of Nicholas Morse. And Casey Kerwin's starting to get into that as well. He's already got a win this year, I do believe. I've been kind of following the Pro Series a little bit vaguely here, but I have heard that name a lot, and you always hear it in the official sessions. Casey Kerwin trying to get it done there inside the top 10. Let's look at a gap this time by another 2/10, so y'all are closing in even faster here only on lap number 13.
A huge chunk taken out that last time through. Another 2/10 fell the way of Jarl Teen, and I think at this rate, when Jarl gets to Brad and on the rear bumper of that number 28 machine, I don't think it's going to be very difficult for Jarl to make that move. 2/10 is a lot of time for Brad to be giving up the way he currently is. So it's going to be an interesting fight for your race lead here in the next couple laps, but it's going to be a very short-lived one. And I think Brad Davies, he's going to be happy to just get in line and cruise, regardless if he maintains this race lead or not.
While we're sitting here, before we get this battle good and underway, let's go ahead and go over your top 10 in points. These are the drivers who are so far locked in. Now, this could change because we still do have 4 more events, including tonight, so that's 5. So Nicholas Shelton so far, he's got almost, he does have a 200-point lead on this championship. Keegan Leahy in the 3rd position. He's running 2nd in the standings. Justin Bolton, Brandon Pitgrass, Casey Kerwin, Brad Davies, your your leader. David Rattler, Kevin King, Colton Davis, and Will Cooley are your top 10. So those are the drivers who are relatively okay at the moment, but that can all change even tonight.
Especially you have some of those guys just on the outside looking in, only 4 points back. A
little bit of trouble there for Chenoweth, but as he was saying, just a couple points back is Nicholas Morse. Then you have Michael Guest, just 4 points back, and then you got about 15, 20 points back. And those guys, those are the guys who are really fighting for the important spot. They're just kind of slogging through any position that can happen, or that they can get in the next few races, could put them into the Peak Antifreeze Series. Looks like a little mic trouble for Randy, so we're going to get that sorted out. That battle for leads kind of calmed down now as he's gotten into the draft with the 28 machine, starting to take a little bit of downforce off of the front of that number 6 Chevy SS here. Keegan Lee, he's starting to close in as well. He's within half a second. Looks like he got a little bit tight there coming off of turn number 2, so he's going to lose a lot of time, and it's 1.5 seconds back to Mitchell Hunt in the 4th position. Looking back here, it looks like we got a battle for the 6th position. Jacob Harberts and Colton Davis in 6th and 7th. Those guys are the closest on the racetrack at the moment. They're right nose to tail there for just outside the top 5. They started where they run. Jacob started in the 6th spot, Colton in the 7th position. Behind them, Nicholas Morse lost a lot of time, but he's just trying to slog some points out and get up into the top 10, as I talked about a second ago. Well, Randy, did we get your mic fixed?
I think so. The USB cable done fell out of it.
Well, that's Cisco's job. He was supposed to set up the booth.
Yeah, I blame him.
Well, it looks like the battle for the lead between Jarl and Brad Davies, it started to kind of fall apart. I mean, Jarl, he ran him down by almost 2 seconds, and then as soon as he got to the back bumper, looks like the car just kind of fell out from him because he went from gaining 2/10 a lap to now losing 2/10 in just about 5 laps.
Yeah, and Brad's done a good job. I'm not sure if Brad's just out here with the race lead playing games with those two, or if that's just the way his car is set up. Normally, it'd be weird to see a car that burns the stuff off that quick and then comes back. So maybe just playing a little bit of games, or just pacing himself out here as Brad Davies in that number 28 machine is. We're already logged 20 laps complete in this one here tonight. But regardless, really interesting to see that gap ebb and flow by that much and fluctuate to that extent.
So that kind of gives us a little insight to what the kind of machine Brad Davies has under him, because you thought he had a short run car, but it looks like he's able to run away, at least in the early going. We're seeing, because Tian may have run his stuff off trying to get him because he thought that he could run him down and run away with the lead here in the early going. But Randy, if he can have that kind of setup later in the run, he may have the winning car, because if he can stretch out his lead, get caught, but then have enough tires and have enough setup to pull back away again, I tell you what, there's going to be no touching that 28 machine.
It'd be a nice little asset to have, isn't it? Just to only really have to worry about that pace and sort of that middle segment of the run, you know, after about 10 to 15 laps and after a few go by, start to have the advantage on pace again. But we should be seeing these guys start thinking about coming down pit road relatively shortly. One of the big things to talk about is, of course, the updates with these new Cup cars. Pretty much all the stock cars on the iRacing service change the aero model, a little bit of changes to the tire model as well, changes the way these guys are approaching and setting up these cars. And this is the first time I've seen them run at Darlington thus far, and they seem to be running about the same as they were, well, visually anyways. That doesn't necessarily mean that what's happening under the hood is the same, but seeing the same parts of the track being run. And that's the other thing we need to talk about, Gabe. The way this racetrack's going to develop over time is that top line, especially with all these laps of green flag running, eventually going to go away.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see what that, because I'm starting to see that middle lane start to darken up, and I'm already seeing Brad Davies kind of diamond the corner up. He's getting an early entry, clipping the apron there, and then kind of letting it glide up to the wall. See, he's doing it right here now through 3 and 4, and then he brings it back down the racetrack. It's a little bit different line than we saw there in the early going, but he's going to have to adapt it a lot if the track does change, probably about the lap 100 mark. But you bring up pit stops, I want to talk about something. They added the new simulated pit stops. You actually have a pit crew now. What comes with that, you have a different pit board. I know these guys, they've had time to adjust to it, but just wait. We could see a spike in the amount of pit stop mistakes if drivers blow through their pit box expecting, you know, the same kind of detection as, you know, say the lollipop man that we used to have here on iRacing. That may come into play because I've seen a lot of drivers make mistakes.
I've actually already seen that in a series we broadcast on RaceSpot TV the very first week where we had those new pit crews. We saw a number of drivers make mistakes on pit road. The 12 machine, Keegan Lee, looks like he tagged the wall pretty good. Actually, no, he just got loose, kept it off the wall through 1 and 2. So well done by Keegan Lee, but already struggled with that. But just talking more on pit stops, I think we're going to be expecting guys coming down pit road a bit sooner than we might normally expect here, because lap times have dropped off a ton. Start of the run, Brad Davies, will use him as an example. Fastest lap of 27.7, 30.3 last time through for Brad Davies. So these lap times just in 26 laps already closing in on 3 seconds they've dropped off the pace, and the further they go, the more and more those tires are going to start to go away. So I think we're going to see people starting to think about that early pit stop here really soon.
Looking at the 12 machine of Keegan Lee, it was just a slow little lazy slide through turns 1 and 2. Looks like he got in there just a little bit too aggressive. The car wanted to snap on him. He did a great job hanging on to it. Problem is, those tires are about shot. Closing in lap number 30, and we're caution-free so far. Haven't seen too many incidents. We've seen guys get tight. We've seen them get loose like that. But we haven't seen a lot of contact, which is kind of abnormal for Darlington.
Darlington typically a very, very physical racetrack. Just ask Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven. But the way everyone's running it tonight here, Gabe, especially with it being the first of these sort of wild card tracks, so maybe, you know, something these guys may not be quite as used to compared to the cookie cutters and high banked 1.5 mile or so long racetracks. I think everyone is playing it really calm. We saw that on the start. No one really pushing or jockeying for positions too hard. People just wanted to get into the single group running. Didn't really care whether they went plus or minus a spot or two either way. So on the one hand, maybe a little surprising to see the race running so clean, but on the other hand, after seeing everyone so keen to get themselves single file, I think maybe that shouldn't be so much of a surprise.
Now, with the amount of tire wear that we're seeing, also a little update on Brad Davies. Has led all 30 laps so far. He's up to a 3.896 second gap. So that number 28 Chevrolet, he is continuing to pull away from Merrill Tien and your new third place driver, Mitchell Hunt, after the 12 of Keegan Lee got loose in turns number 1 and 2. But these guys, if you want to run this series, you've got to practice. You know, you've got to build your setup. You got to take the time. These guys are practicing these cars week and a half, 2 weeks in advance to be ready for these races. Now, would these guys maybe practice different strategies, running a full run, and then having somebody do something unexpected? Like if your Tien comes in and maybe a couple laps, he starts catching Brad Davies, and then he short pits, gets tires. Would they kind of practice that situation? Because that would really come in handy, especially here with the amount of tire wear at Darlington.
with so many of the changes we've seen to these cars, I think everyone's going to have to, in some ways, reevaluate how they do their strategy. And yeah, I would certainly say that people may be testing how do 2 tires feel compared to 4 tires. How does no tires feel? We know it'll be slow, but could be something we can maybe try and play with near the end of the race to, maybe stay out. It's one of those things that I think is going to go into a lot of the testing realm for all these guys, especially those who build the longer run setups. If your entire goal is to just get out there and run quickly really early on and hope that we get a lot of short runs over the course of 134 laps, you're probably not going to do that quite so much. But if you're someone who, you want your car to run well through 25, through 30, 35 laps, you're going to have to test how it functions in different types of weather. And that's one of the other things that's a big changing point as well, is how the weather affects the cars and affects the track.
Well, as these guys start to single file out and just kind of start running their own races, let's go back through the pack here. Jake Nichols in the number 10 machine running in the 17th spot. Kevin King in 18th. He's up from 24th. Meanwhile, Nichols down from the 11th starting position. They're starting to close up here. That number 4 machine, Simcraft Chevrolet, he's starting to close in on the back bumper, that 10 machine. But meanwhile, the 21 right behind him, Jeremy Davis, they're starting to close in as well. So it's tightening up, but they can't pass. It's, they have to have a really good setup, and they have to know how to pass here at Darlington. And these guys, they're really finding it tough to get any sort of run.
Yeah, it's Darlington's, I don't want to say it's a single groove racetrack, but the fast line is all the way up.
Oh, looks like we got guys coming to the pits. Tyler Hudson, yeah, Cisco screaming at us. Tyler Hudson to the pits. He's the first one to take advantage of it. And Jake Nichols now also on pit road.
So your first round of guys opting to come down pit lane starting here. So lap number 34 for your early comers. There's also another driver running in the back. I believe it was Dallas Pasaka. He came down pit road early as well. So it's going to be interesting to see the pace differential that Tyler Hudson has over the rest of the field as he now leaves pit road in the middle of 1 and 2. Going to remerge actually just in front of your race leader of Brad Davies. Also have James Curl and James Millibacher. That's pretty much everyone likely going to start coming down pit lane because of the 3-second undercut. You don't want to let someone sit out there for 10 laps. Either you come down pit lane soon, or you need to try to push another 15 to 20 laps and then come down pit road if you want to play the long game.
And if you're playing the long game, that pretty much forces you, into a kind of strategy. Also playing the late game. If you're going to stay out late, you have to stay out later again to make sure that those tires work. Looks like Brad Davies clipping the rear end on the wall, but it keeps the car pointing in the right direction. Still fast out there. But if you're going to, as we got one car spinning down the back straightaway, Michael J. Johnson in the number 20 or 26 machine, he's wrecked down the back straightaway. No caution so far. And he's going to get away with it clean. He was wrecked on the apron, but it looks like he got a lot of damage. Something happened to that number 26 machine because he had no rear deck lid, so he had a lot of damage from earlier, and the car just got out from under him on lap number 36 coming out of 2.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it looks like to me as well. Maybe some sort of damage messing with that thing, and got a little loose coming off the banking at 2, and then it just sort of shot to the right. Not really sure if there's much that Michael Johnson could do to really save that machine. But just talking about strategy, it's one of those things where if you watch some of the inexperienced drivers, and they'll see drivers come down early and they might stay out for 5 or 10 laps. The thing is that if you want to play the long con strategy, you need to actually push that number out to about 20, 25 laps to get enough of a differential compared to you and the people doing the undercut to where it's actually worth it. So right now for Brad Davies, the fact he hasn't come down pit lane yet, I would say he's probably looking somewhere around the window of lap number 50, 55 when he'll eventually come down and make his pit stop.
Looks like he's starting to slow down a little bit. Still faster than the number 6 machine of Jarl Tien, but it's now back to 6.5 seconds and still growing, but not as exponentially as we saw earlier. And I say that, and then he pulls it out by a full second.
Yeah, looks like Jarl maybe struggling a little bit with some traffic, but a lot of people starting to really drop off here. Mitchell Hunt in 3rd, he's down to 30.9. Jacob Herbert's in 4th, he does a 31.0. 31.1 from Keegan, 30.9 from Nick Morris. Everyone's really dropping down to those super high 39s, low 31s. Brad Davies, the only driver keeping it in sort of that mid to high 30s, 30.7 last time through, 7's really the last 3 or 4 laps. So he's got 2 or 3 tenths here in this late stage of the run on pretty much everyone up and down the field. And I think if you're Brad Davies, that's when it's a fantastic idea to just stay out and continue to stretch your gap over everyone else.
And you know that 28 machine is going to get a lot of messages after this race. What did you do to that setup? Because he has just got a handle on this entire field. And this is the best of the rest. I mean, the guys who are the best are watching this race right now and seeing who their competition is going to be next year for the Peak Antifreeze Series title. You know, the top 10 of these guys get in, so they may have to look out for Brad Davies. He's been in the Pro Series before. He's been in the Peak Antifreeze Series whenever it was still the iRacing World Championship. He's been there. He's been tough competition. And if they go back to Darlington next year and he's got the same tricks up his sleeve, you may want to look out for Brad Davies.
He definitely, I mean, it's one of those situations where for all these guys who are in the Peak Series already have their black stripe going into next season, they can, they essentially get off time here. I'm sure they're doing some testing, but it's not nearly as intense as what a lot of these guys are having to do. These guys trying to run through the Pro Championship, get that top 10 status, and be able to run in next season's NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. But they're all going to be watching closely, especially with the updates and changes to the cars that are coming out. What are the other guys finding? What do they have? It's always nice when you have a couple months to try to be like, oh, Brad Davies has hit on something awesome. How do we try to find that? Versus we have 7 days. We need to catch Brad now. It's a lot less stressful. You're trying to reach the same goal, but a lot less stress involved when you give yourself 8 weeks as opposed to 6 days.
Looks like the number 22 of Adam Benefield. It's going to be another driver to come in. He's going to be about the 3rd or 4th driver to come to the pit, so not many have taken the opportunity to come get for Mr. Feelgoods here in the early going. But yeah, back to your point, you talk about these guys having an off season. I'm looking through the spectator and spotter list. I mean, about half of the Peak Antifreeze Series field is either spotting for somebody in this race or watching it. So they're taking notes, they're learning, and they're going to take what they learned to the test track here whenever it gets close to the Peak Antifreeze Series at Darlington. Oh, sure, we got the 34, I think, was loose coming on entry to pit road, locked up the brakes. He made it there fine, but Malik Ray in the number 34 machine got very loose on entry.
Yeah, I was just about to say that as well. He just locked up the rear in Darlington. That's one of the things about this racetrack. It's a very, very awkward pit entry here. And then Malik Ray, he actually misses his pit box entirely. So that point you made earlier, Gabe, about having that new animated pit crew maybe wreaking some havoc on people. Yeah, I don't know what Malik is going on, but his race is just falling apart. And now I think he's finally in the box. And I was talking with a couple of people, actually race leaders on pit lane as well. So Brad Davies hits a little bit sooner than I would have thought. Casey Kerwin, he's gonna be second in out there on the racetrack. I think he'll take the race lead for at least a short time. But one of the things, these animated pit crews for the NASCAR cars, they've actually, because of the way the animated pit crew works, the actual sort of dimensions you have to work with peeling into your box are a lot tighter than they used to be. So it's not nearly as flexible as it was a few weeks ago for these guys making green flag pit stops. So because of that, expect a lot of people who sort of already have that muscle memory developed, maybe making some mistakes here for at least a couple months, because that's trying to reset muscle memory like that, very, very difficult as green flag stops now comfortably underway.
Yeah, and we laugh on behalf of the 34 Malik Ray. He's a fast driver, and that just shows what can happen if you get it wrong, because it wasn't like he overshot it by that much. He had backed up, but then he was too far to the right or too far to the left, and the dimensions were not letting the pit crew, change the tires on the car. So that's unfortunate for Malik. That may put him a lap down with the amount of time they've lost.
And it's just one of those situations where, for me as a racer, I've been in those sort of awkward situations. Maybe not that specific one on pit road, but you make some sort of mistake that's awkward to get out of, and you just see the panic setting in. Just, come on, I need to get the car in the right. Come on, come on, come on, come on. And it just, you're so anxious and so apprehensive and so wanting to get back up to speed that you end up costing yourself a lot of time. And unfortunately, that 34 machine now finds himself running. He's the last car running 1 lap down. So bit of a night killer potentially for Malik. What he really needs to hope for is a quick caution, maybe reset the field a little bit, and then hope for a caution shortly thereafter, after he can maybe run his way through the field, because he pretty much is going to need that wave around in order to have any hope of bringing that thing back into contention tonight.
Is that Casey Kerwin, number 2? He did get out there to the lead, but now he's come down pit road, so Brad Davies is going to inherit the lead. And look at how much time Tyler Hudson made up. He was running outside the top 15, Randy, whenever he came into pit, and now that number 18 machine is up into the runner-up position.
Fantastic job by him there on the undercut. Problem is, it's been 14 laps of running for him since he came down pit lane So for Tyler Hudson, those lap times are going to start to grow and grow and grow as this race drags on, and everyone else, they just came down pit road. They're going to be putting in some of their fastest times right here, right now. So for T-Hud, he really needs to be just perfect here. Hit his mark, be absolutely phenomenal. Luckily for him, though, looks like a lot of people really struggling through the pit lane. We've seen some gaps up and down the field really stretch out here, so he's going to have a little bit of breathing room, but he needs to be picture perfect here, and he should be set to actually transition from this really well and maybe take a good finish tonight, regardless of if we get a caution or not.
Looking back through the time intervals here, it looks like actually the field kind of tightened up during those pit stops here, Randy. So it may, or except for Jarl T, looks like he lost a lot of time with Brad Davies coming into pit. But it looks like it's tightened up the field. I mean, we're seeing guys a heck of a lot closer than they were before the pit stop here.
Yeah, it's sort of towards the front of the field, things have gotten really spread out, but down towards the back of the field, or you know, towards the mid-pack, you're right. There's a lot of things, a lot of different strategies that have sort of intertwined. Some people pit one lap, other people pit another, and because of that, you end up with situations where up and down the field, you have a number of cars separated within a second or so.
Like we got a battle right now. Looking back through the field, the closest cars we see right now are Colton Davis and Glenn Rockefeller in the number 30 machine. They're right now running in the 9th and 10th position, the 16 and the 30. As they come out of turns number 3 and 4. Looks like a little right side damage for the 16 machine, but that's to be expected here at Darlington. Looks like the 16 is one of the drivers to earn his Darlington stripe so far.
We've actually not seen too many drivers do that yet tonight, have we? Everyone's been playing a lot of respect to that outside retaining wall. Not seen too many drivers really get up into it. Really, the mistakes we've seen a couple mistakes on pit road, and we've seen people have some issues maybe coming off the corner, you know, struggle getting a good run, and people getting all sorts of loose and sideways, and some issues on pit road if you're Malik Ray, of course. But not seen a lot of those Darlington stripes out here tonight. Seen people get close, but not seen too many people actually get there.
Speaking of getting close, Jarl T starting to close in on Tyler Hudson here. He cut it down from about 3 seconds apart now to his right to the rear bumper. So this will be the battle for the second position. Meanwhile, Brad Davies out by 8.1 seconds. As he comes into turn number 4, look at the amount of difference between the 6 and the 18. The 13, 14 laps of pit between those two drivers. The laps of Green Flag Racing on the 18 machine. Since he came from pit road, it's just killing that car at the moment. He's also got a little bit of front end damage. I wonder where that came from.
I think he had that when he came down pit road, so maybe just a little bit of a stack up with another car at some point. Doesn't look too severe though, and shouldn't really be affecting the pace of that number 18 machine. But he's, you know, the way Jarl reeled him in and just made that move, I feel like Tyler expected that battle to go that way. He's out there on old tires. Everyone else just came down pit road last handful of laps. So now you have Mitchell Hunt reeling him in, and Mitchell's basically going to come off corner number 2 here, and if he doesn't get the run here, it'll definitely get it through 3 and 4, and just fantastic drive down the hill, off down onto the back straightaway, and pokes the nose, and there goes that car around your number 18 machine of Tyler Hudson, and next in line will be Jacob Harberts, who's a little ways back, but he's going to get there quickly. You do have a lapper, though. That's Patrick Mallett. He's got some pace on Tyler Hudson as well, but not quite able to get the move done because they came off 4 that time through.
Now, I want to point out somebody. He was one of the last drivers to pit, Casey Kerwin. He came off a pit road 28 seconds behind Brad Davies. He was the last driver on the lead lap. Casey Kerwin starting to make up some time here. He's got open ground. He's up to 18th. That'll be one driver to look for here at the end of this run.
Yeah, a lot of movers and shakers here up and down the field as Tyler Hudson close moment there with Patrick Mallett, not the lapper, as they work themselves in towards 1 and 2. So Mallett slower, well, he's quicker than Hudson, but I think due to the fact that he's a lap down, Tyler not showing, I don't want to say he's not showing him much respect, but Tyler doesn't want to give up much time at all. And now because of that, Jacob Harbert's right on the rear bumper of that number 18 machine.
Meanwhile, looking through your field, looks like a big gaggle of cars. Jake Nichols just got passed by a couple of drivers. Or no, excuse me. Looking back through here, Glenn Rockefeller has gotten past David Rattler, I believe, in the 32, but it's a lot of movement and shaking. Oh, it's a lap down car, the number 9 machine of James Millenbacher. But I'm looking through here, this is when you start seeing the passing here at Rockingham. Where are we?
Oh my God, Gabe, no!
Darlington, excuse me. This is when you start seeing those kind of passes here at Darlington. When guys are on separate pit strategies, they're able to make that run work. And that'll be interesting coming into this race. If somebody like Brad Davies or Jarl Tien is behind, but they pitted a lot later, you may start seeing them. It'll be a close run to the finish.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the big situation, isn't it? Now the other question you have to be asking is, when does Tyler Hudson come down on towards pit lane? Because he ended up hitting pit lane lap number 33. He's now working lap number 60. So if he stays on that same strategy, he'll be down pit road here within about 5 or so laps. It'll also be interesting to note, Gabe, if anyone sound clips that and if it gets added to the soundboard memes of punching your chicken.
I don't know, but to quote Trevin Valderrama, it looks like Brad Davies is giving these guys a run for their bunnies.
Yeah,
yes, that was said last night.
it's okay. It happens. I have commentated enough to know that makes silly mistakes happen. I have been on the wrong end of many a silly mistake.
Looks like we got a battle for the 5th position. Tyler Hudson continuing to lose time. He was 3 seconds back whenever he came off of pit road and Brad Davies retook the lead. But now he's back to 5th and about to lose it to Keegan Leahy, your second place starter in the number 12 machine. He's going to get the run, trying to get it to the bottom through turns 3 and 4. Looks like the 18 machine a little bit loose. It's kind of a tight, loose situation here for that 18 machine. Loose coming off the exit of the corner. And then the 22 also of Adam Benefield, who's one of your first drivers actually to come to pit road. So surprising, he's actually making up spots.
He actually came down about 10 laps later than Tyler Hudson did. So I'm not sure who you're mixing him up with. But
well, no, I'm saying the rest of the field. Because he's still passing drivers who came down later than he.
Oh, right. Yeah. So now I understand what you're meaning. But yeah, it's good to see that Adam able to run the way he is after coming down a little bit earlier. We're still in this long green flag run, lap number 64, and it's all been clean and green thus far of the 134 laps we have here tonight. So we're going to tick past halfway relatively shortly, and it'll be interesting to see if that halfway mark will be tagged with Tyler Hudson coming down pit lane or not, or if he's going to try to run a longer groove here this time.
Yeah, between Brad Davis and Jarl Tien, 9.3 seconds. So continuing to grow here. Tyler Hudson also continuing to lose seconds and positions. Now the 16 of Colton Davis on the outside, so it's fair to say that the strategy for the 18 machine not working so far, but he is also the Peak Antifreeze Series champion, or former Peak Antifreeze Series champion, so he knows what he's doing, he knows how to get it done, so he may know something that we don't, but that'll just be something we have to wait and see. Glenn Rockefeller and the number 30 machine and Garrett Lowe are also following them just inside the top 10. Well, I'll tell you what, we're about to hit the halfway point here. Let's go ahead and update your running order, and then we'll send it to commercial break as these guys continue to fight out on the racetrack. Brad Davies, as we've said all night, he's led the entirety of the green flag stretch here at Darlington. He's continuing to lead right now here at the halfway point. Jarl Tien in the second position, Mitchell Hunt, Jacob Harberts, Keegan Leahy round out your top 5, Adam Benefield, Colton Davis, Tyler Hudson, as we just mentioned him, Glenn Rockefeller, and Garrett Lowe round out your top 10.
David Rattler sits in that 11th spot. Not been a good run from him. Started 3rd, all the way back outside of the top 10 right now. Jake Nichols in 12th, Kevin Keene 13th, Casey Kerwin 14th, Blade Witt 15th, Steven Wilson 16th, 17th, Brandon Pipgrass, Michael Garuglia, the man who Gabe unfortunately cannot pronounce. He's up plus 12 inside the top 20. He'll be happy with that. Jesse Schwartz 19th, and Nicholas Morris rounds out your top 20.
Back half of the field, 21st through 34th. Michael Guest in the 21st spot. Robbie Vrabriel Jr. in the 22nd position. Jeremy Davis, Braden Boulos, Benjamin Nelson is your first driver, 1 lap down in 25th. Kane Cook, Blake Bryant, Nathan Lyon, Patrick Mallett, and Malik Ray, as we saw, who had trouble on the pit stops, round out your top 30. And looks like we're rounding out your field. Looking through here, looks like actually Dallas Pataska and James Millibacher have actually exchanged position. Looks like James Curl continuing to lose spots here. So James Curl now down to the 32nd spot. Dallas Pataska in the 33rd position. And Michael Johnson is your first and only driver out of tonight's race. He was involved in that wreck that did not cause a caution, but it did put him out of tonight's race. Well, this has been your iRacing Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. We want to thank you for being with us over the course of yet another season of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series action here on LSRTV. You can find us on air several times a week on iRacing Live. And if you make sure to never miss a broadcast of ours by subscribing to us on YouTube at youtube.com/LSRTV. We've got 4 more races. Looks like we got exiting pit lane is Tyler Hudson, so he is on pit road. So we'll update you on green flag pit stops here. And I think we're going to go to commercial here as these drivers are starting to get busy on pit road. So we're going to update you on who goes where when we come back from commercial. This is the Darlington Raceway, and it's going to be the iRacing Pro Series, the final stop on the way to the Peak Antifreeze Series. We'll be right back.
The yellow flag is out. Pit road is now open. Keep your eye on those gauges. We'll give you 4 tyres. 3, 2, 1, now. We're done. Get going.
Red Bull GRCs are now available on iRacing. I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, developing the cars, the tracks, the dirt, making sure it is authentic as possible, and I really think you guys are going to love it. The best part is that this 600 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle is free to all members. So get signed up now and come race me online.
Back here live, Darlington Speedway, Brad Davies continues to lead in round number 6 of the final road to the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series schedule and season. These drivers top 10 in points get into the big show. The rest of them, they have to wait another year to find out if they can race consistently with the creme de la creme of iRacing's Oval Series. Looks like Brad Davies racing some lap cars. He's still your leader, but up into the outside fence as he's battling a few lap cars here, the 17 and the 25 machine drivers. It's Blade Witt and Michael, yeah.
Come on, Michael Guruglia.
Raruglia, okay.
So Guruglia, I don't speak that language, so I probably have it wrong regardless. Brad's eventually going to get around Michael there pretty much clean. And it's going to be interesting to see here, though, is whether or not we stay green, because we did see a number of drivers come down pit lane already, those early takers, most notable of which, of course, Tyler Hudson. Question is going to be, if you're T-Hud, do you come down pit lane here? Let's see, if he's been doing 33 lap runs, so it'd be lap number 99 if he opts to come down pit lane again, or do you just try to make it all the way from here?
At 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds a lap between new and old tires, I don't know if it's really worth it to stay out. But on the flip side, you know, if you out front like Brad Davies is, do the guys even have time on new tires to catch you?
Probably. That's really going to be the big thinking point. You have to find where that delta is. So that's what's going to be interesting. But Brad Davies, he's still working his way through the lap traffic, and looking by my notes, he came down pit road lap number 46, so he should be down somewhere around lap number 90, 92. I think pretty much all of those guys, if we stay green, if they pit around that lap 90 or so mark, as we suspect, I think pretty much everyone in that little category, they'll be safe to make it from there to the end.
And as we continue to click off laps, we're clicking off drivers on the lead lap. So far, 14 are left. Brandon Pipgrass in the number 24 machine. He's in 15th right now. He is your final driver, or he's your first driver, excuse me, off the lead lap. He just went a lap down a few seconds ago to Brad Davies. Now Nicholas Morse, he's in the number 20 machine. You can see him right out the front windshield. Brad Davies can, and you know Davies is taking it easy on these lap cars after that little scare a few laps ago.
Yeah, this is one of those situations for Brad where he's just out there cruising. He's not really been pushing him for a while now. He's just managing that gap to Jarl in second. It's out to 13 seconds for Brad Davies. So he's that number 28 machine putting on an absolute clinic tonight, putting that number 13th place car, Nick Morris a lap down, and he's now next car in line will be Kevin King as he runs himself down the front straightaway, and Brad Davies not very far behind coming across start finish right now. So for Brad, no point to really panic. Just drive the car, be smooth, be safe. Don't want to end up in an Ayrton Senna at Monaco situation, find yourself a big lead and accidentally put the car on the wall trying to cruise too much. And he really seems to be, I don't want to say he's really driving it on rails, or he's gotten himself into a comfortable autopilot situation. Haven't seen any sketchy moments for that 28 machine really.
And as he's encountering this lap traffic, it's kind of tough on Brad Davies and kind of easy on your LTN, because Brad, he's having to pass these guys one at a time, and it's kind of thinning out the lap cars. It's, you know, they're used to racing side by side. Then they
Brad's in the wall. 1 and 2. Just say he's had a comfortable run, got into a nice autopilot situation. 1 and 2. He just smacked that outside wall through corner number 1 and 2. So Brad Davies, big lead. Did he maybe just throw it away?
Gonna have to wait and see. The gap was 13.5 seconds here. Let's see what can happen in the next few laps. If that car is damaged enough, he hit it with the rear deck lid, really the rear quarter panel area of the car, and then slapped it up into the fence, but doesn't look like too much damage. It was really a soft hit, but just looking to wait and see, and he's actually continuing to lose time to the 20 machine of Nicholas Morse, who's running at 13th, and it's a full second back to your team that he has lost now, as Brad, and it looks like the way he's been fast all race, he's been kind of getting it loose on entry, and it looks like it's starting to try and bite him, because I've seen him do it all race. I thought he was just, you know, kind of not running his line perfectly, but it's actually what he's doing. He's getting it loose on entry, and then he's able to drive it off harder than a lot of other drivers, but that may have just bit him.
Yeah, he's really been wheeling that number 28 car, and it's just going to be interesting to see the next handful of laps. Looks like the speed has gotten back down to around where it was, trying to work on the bottom side of Nick Morse, who runs in 13th, and not quite able to do so. Nick really not giving him much space, and not really giving in either. Nick trying to reel in Kevin King, and he's been doing so by a few tenths per lap, so can't really blame him there. But, you know, the big question mark is for Brad. What did he hurt on the body panels? Did he have any bent arrow at all? And really, what's happening underneath? Did he maybe push a tire out of tow or something like that? That's going to be one of the big question marks, especially when you talk about a racetrack like this and the long green runs we've seen, tire wear. And he's actually going to come down early. Yeah, this is an early stop from him. He should have been pushing somewhere around the mid-90s here on this little run, but I'll have to call it early, maybe get some repairs. But actually, regardless, about 47 laps from here to the end. So yeah, he's basically on his strategy.
He's got a few laps, or he's got a few seconds to play with if he wants to get a little bit of that damage fixed. But it'll just be interesting to wait and see. And now, for the first time tonight, y'all 10 up at the front of the field. So y'all are getting a few extra bonus points here for leading the front of the pack. Let's see Brad Davies come into his pit stall. See if he can hit it perfectly, slides the tires just a little bit. Car ends up fine, so the right side's going to jack up. Now this will be the kind of important thing to see. When the jack drops on the left side, does he sit and wait for a little bit of damage to get taken care of?
Gonna be interesting to see. Indeed, car is gonna drop, and actually, he may have taken some repairs, but not very much for sure. Some may have happened during the pit stop, but he did not waste much time at all. Now, those who are still out on the racetrack, I think they're making a pretty big mistake right now, like the Darlington, Mitchell Hunt, Jacob Harbers, Keegan Lee, because the problem they're all going to have here, Gabe, is that they're expecting to come down pit lane within the next 5 to 6 laps. And if you just stay out for 5 or 6 laps while Brad's out there on a brand new set of tires, that's going to be 3 seconds per lap that Brad's going to be pulling out. I don't think you can afford to go that sort of time. You need to, so for everyone out there on the racetrack, they either need to come in right now, ideally 2 laps ago when they saw that 28 machine hit pit lane. We've got a few that have opted to come down on towards pit lane. But James Curl has a little bit of half spin through 1 and 2, and he's going to spin down to the inside and back up into the racetrack. Could this bring out the caution here tonight? He's facing the wrong way. Yes, it does. Oh, big impact with the 12. Keegan Lee, second place runner.
Second place runner, big implications here. The 3 machines sideways on the racetrack, and he was just sitting there. You know, he's trying to get the car under control. And the caution didn't come out for a long time, so I don't think the 12 machine really even knew that it was that serious of an accident, and then he just had nowhere to go, and he started to slow it down, but just nowhere to go for the second place runner. Now, that traps, where is the 28 of Brad Davies? No, he was on the lead lap. So that'll allow everybody else to catch up.
Yeah, he's either on the lead lap or he was the first car a lap down. Looks like they actually tagged him down a lap here. I think he started to get around Jarl, and then the caution flew and it put him right back behind. But regardless, he will be on the lead lap. And thing is, for Brad Davies, he didn't run very many laps, so his tires will be good. But this is actually going to really, really hurt that number 28 machine, because he's going to now have to essentially get the wave around, get back to the tail end of the field, and I do not think he'll be able to jump everyone. He's currently he's the first car right behind the pace car at the moment, and he scored a full 1 minute behind your race leader Jarl Tien last time he came across the stripe. He gets the wave around now, so he'll be the last car starting on lead lap. That's going to hurt. Can he run that 28 machine through the field, potentially fight for a win?
Gonna have to wait and see what they can do on these pit stops here. Jarl Tien will be the first to hit his pit stall. Sorry, just looking back through the last wreck here. Sorry about that. As they come off the pit road, it's going to be Jarl Tien leading them out of the pits. But Brad Davies, is he going to stay out? He was only out there for a couple laps, and with the pace that he's had, I don't think it's really going to matter. But unfortunately, Keegan Lee out of tonight's race. So that'll spill into his chances. Had a really good shot at a top 5.
That's going to really hurt him. He came into this second in the points. He was he's close to 300 points out from Nicholas Shelton. So really just hoping to get good points and maybe stretch his gap over Justin Bolton, who sits in third. And after this here tonight, I think he's going to have his hands full. Let's see, does Brad Davies in the 28
Davies is coming to pit road.
It's an interesting decision, because I think he picked up some spots as he had that wave around. Some of the people at the tail end of the field, he managed to get through. I think he would have started somewhere around 6th or 7th, not quite as deep as I would have expected. Tires would have been pretty much brand new. Let's see, he came down pit lane lap number 87, and the caution flew lap number 90. So I don't think really the new tires would have, or the tires would have affected him that much.
Is he coming down to get the damage fixed?
Maybe, but we haven't seen that car look that bent. But, I mean, within 40 laps of Darlington, I think I would favor the track position over everything.
Well, I don't think he was even given the wave around, because he was on the lead lap, I think, as the caution flew. Cisco's handing us a note saying that the EOL is going to go to the lucky dog, but I don't think he even got the lucky dog.
Well, I don't. It's sort of weird. I don't know if he was technically a lap down or not, but he was at one point behind the pace car and then got waved around it. If you look a couple laps before he actually came down pit lane, he got a wave around past the pace car. Look at his. I'll tell you here in the chat here in a second, but I'm not sure. Really interesting.
Yeah, gonna have to wait and see, but he's gonna have a tough fight getting back up to the field.
I don't know if I like it or not. It's a bit of an interesting one, and He was right there when he just came down. He was scored fifth in the standings, and didn't look like he took any repairs there. So he's going to be starting. Then again, well, actually, no, I take that back. I was going to say he lapped a bunch of the field, but I don't know. This is an interesting one for Brad. I don't know if I like this or not.
All right, so your updated running order. Darlington in the lead for the first time tonight. It's the first time he's led. He's led for about 20 laps now as Brad Davies and a couple of the drivers came to pit road. So Casey Kerwin's going to move up into second. Colton Davis in third. Stephen Wilson, Jesse Swartz, Braden Bolos, Jeremy Davis, Benjamin Nelson. You go ahead and say it for me.
Oh, Michael Garuglia.
Brad Davies, round out your top 10.
You're welcome. You're welcome, babe. Oh, lights out. We're going green.
Yep, lights out on top. The iRacing.com Series pace car. They were a little bit sluggish getting formed up here, but Darlington's going to take off into the lead. The same kind of start that Brad Davies got 94 laps ago. He's going to take off to a huge lead as they go into turn number 1. So Darlington comes out to the lead. Casey Kerwin looking for another win on the season. So he's going to run in that second spot. Colton Davis and Stephen Wilson round out your top 4, and then Jesse Swartz has fallen back into 5th.
Darlington, I'm not sure what happened to him. Maybe some sort of issues for him. He's coming down on towards pit lane. Maybe a black flag for something under caution.
Oh, unfortunate for Darlington. He finally gets the lead. He's had about the second fastest car all night, but now Casey Kerwin gets handed the lead. Meanwhile, Brad Davies now up to 7th. That's going to be somebody to watch coming up to the field here. Watch that green and orange number 28 as he slices and dices his way up through the pack.
Currently working on Braden Boulos, who's not even going to fight him, lifts out of the throttle, lets that 28 machine slide through on the inside. Next in line is going to be Jeremy B. Davis as they come down your front straightaway. And not reeling in much time just yet is Brad Davies, not nearly close enough to make a move. Is he going to reel him in through 3 and 4? Look at all the ground he makes up through the center of the corner, and he's going to try to set him up coming off of corner number 2 here down this back straightaway, and looks to the inside. 28 machine, he wants the top 5 spot back.
Now up into the top 5, past your 17th place starter, the number 21 of Jeremy Davis. So now the next person out the front windshield of the number 28 machine is Jesse Swartz in the 15 machine. He's also got the 3rd place runner, Stephen Wilson, right in front of them. And these guys started 26th and 18th respectively, so they're doing one heck of a job up front.
A lot of close fighting here. A couple of movers, like you said, Wilson and Schwartz. Also have Braden Boulos in 7th, he started 25th. Ben Nelson runs 8th, he started 32nd. Michael Garuglia, he started 30th, he runs 9th. A lot of people amongst your top 10 here tonight, Gabe, who started pretty far ways away from there.
Just like to point out the paint scheme on the number 7 machine. Let's not cut to it. Let's just congrats on the paint scheme. But Casey Kerwin currently 0.8 seconds, so 8.5 tenths in front of the field. Colton Davis in the 2nd position. Jesse Swartz now moves into the 3rd spot, so Stephen Wilson down to 4th, now 5th. As Brad Davies now up to 3rd, 2.3 seconds behind with 34 laps to go when they get back to the start-finish line this time by.
Still watching Brad Davies. He's got himself a podium spot. Now he's going to set his sights on Colton Davis. Colton's been running some good laps here the last few times through. What can Brad do, though, when he eventually comes past the start-finish and starts logging laps that have been uninhibited by other cars? First time through, lap number 100. Lap time's going to be a 28.9 versus a 29.1 for Colton. So 2 tenths goes the way of Brad Davies, race leader to the 29 flat.
Casey Kerwin continuing to lead 2.2 seconds. The gap between 1st and 3rd, Colton Davis sandwiched in between them. But do we see Brad Davies just go full bore to get the lead back? Or do we see him kind of save his stuff a little bit? Now, this is pretty much guaranteed here, Randy, that these guys are going to stay out for the majority of tonight's race. So that was the last time we'll see him down on pit road, barring another caution.
That's pretty much the situation. And where's actually Tyler Hudson worked out in all of this? Oh, this is disaster. Tyler Hudson, first car scored 1 lap down. So all that strategy work has pretty much panned out for nothing. Tyler needs to hope for a yellow so he can get that lucky dog and get himself back on the lead lap. But he would have been someone to maybe interesting watch here, see if that strategy had maybe panned out. But unfortunately for him, not quite. He's only a few laps short really of being able to get on that lead lap, maybe pick out some spots, and then that caution flying. He would have been a happy camper. But the way it's running tonight, Tyler Hudson not very happy. Is Brad Davies not really reeling in those top 2 the way we would have imagined. He's dropped down to the 29.3s here really quickly as we're approaching 30 laps to go.
Just like to point out that Brad Davies has actually lost time to the number 2 machine of Casey Kerwin. He's either saving tires or the car's just not that good in traffic, but either way, what kind of story would it be for Brad Davies to lead 100 laps in this race, and then when it comes down to the finish, he just can't quite get back up there?
It'd be a sad story is what it would be, but also just thinking back to the start of the race, we saw this from this number 28 machine where he ran a handful of laps really quick. Then he had sort of a window where those drivers in second and third.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Oh, but caution flies.
Caution out on the speedway. We're going to have to look and find who wrecked. Where is out on the racetrack?
Blade Witt, big one.
Yep, Blade Witt in the number 25 machine, the 23 also involved in it. Malik Ray just scoots through. Wow, that was close between him, Dallas Pototska. Wow. Gonna have to look back at the replay. It looks like those guys were just fighting hard coming off of turn number 4. Dallas in the 31st position, multiple laps down. And then you had Blade Witt running in the 15th position. So I don't know what Dallas was doing up there. He may have been letting these guys by. Yeah, he was. And he ended up getting into the side of the number 25 machine and putting him up into the outside wall. So both those drivers hit very heavily. But I tell you what, the onboard shot of that Malik Ray machine has got to be one for the record books, one for the highlight reel.
If only he was that efficient scooting into his pit stall, he'd be having a nice little run.
Okay.
Then maybe that's a little too savage, but yeah, Malik got very late. I think he technically just got tagged, but he didn't get tagged very hard. But yeah, unfortunately, that lap car getting into that number 2 machine, likely not going to be a very happy camper, is he? But it's one of those unfortunate situations that ended up happening here at Darlington.
So all these drivers going to come down pit road. I kind of jinxed it a little bit there. I said that it was the last time they're going to be on pit road. But I am mistaken as these guys all come down the pit road with the caution. Coming out, Brad Davies pulls into his pit stall. Everybody stops. It's like Brad Davies' right sides go up, right sides go down, left sides go up. And what's going to happen here? Who's going to win the battle coming off of pit road? It should be Kerwin. Big battle coming off. The 16 of Colton Davis actually went the battle coming off of pit road.
He is going to be really happy about that. Is that number 16 machine to be starting on that inside road. Brad Davies will retain his spot in third, and then pretty much everyone else, a little bit of shuffling up and down the field, but actually doesn't really see any big movers or shakers through that pit stop. Maybe Ben Nelson maybe opting for 2 tires, but besides that, most everyone I think going for 4 to get us home here as we're inside. Well, maybe not necessarily get us home, but inside the last 30 lap run. And I think Brad Davies is going to be really happy with his starting spot because he was really quick on new tires at the start of the run. We said that, and we saw that at the start of the race. Unfortunately for him, is that if this race goes green, it sort of hits in that window where his car sort of dropped off compared to everyone else. So that 28 machine, he's going to need to try to get a lead here. He needs to get these 2 cars in front of him, and he needs to open up a lead quick, I think, to make his chances really good at coming home with this one.
Yeah, because we saw he was fast in the early going in that first run, and then you remember he lost almost 5 seconds to Jarl whenever he was up in the second position. Then he almost got past him whenever the tires started hooking up and the setup was able to pull him away. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And Colton Davis, if he can get a good restart here, he may have just pulled this one out of a hat.
Yeah, he needs to get a good restart. Like I said, he basically needs to do what Brad needs to do. He needs to open up a gap really quickly here. One person this does sort of bail out, though, the 6A Jarl T, and because we didn't get a long green flag run, his tires aren't going to be too old. Should be okay. Should be able to scrounge something up here, and he's going to get back on the lead lap. He might just somehow, some way, be able to make something happen to this tonight here in that number 6.
Yeah, we can't forget about him in the number 6 machine. Let's see where he's at on the racetrack. And Malik Ray, it actually saves him as well because he's able to get the wave around and get back onto the race, or get back onto the lead lap, as well as Tyler Hudson. He was your Lucky Dog free pass recipient, so he gets the benefit of being on the lead lap and new tires.
Lights go out and everyone's going to be cycling themselves through for the wave arounds, and we're going to get ready for what's going to be an entertaining restart, to say the least. And we saw the first initial start tonight, Gabe, go really clean. We had that long green flag run, but inside of 30 laps to go, I think these guys are going to be a lot less patient with one another. I don't think we're going to see the field get single file quite so quickly. I think we're going to see a lot of jockeying for position on this one. I'd be very surprised if we finish this one from here to the end of the race under green.
They roll down the back straight away. It's going to be the iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car leading them into turn number 4, and it's going to pull to the safety of pit road. Your top 5, Colton Davis, Casey Kerwin, Brad Davies, Jesse Schwartz, and Steve Wilson are in your top 5. These guys are all going to battle it out for the win here. Randy, as you said, it's been a pretty clean race so far, but I think the Lady in Black is about to have a very big mood swing as they come off of turn number 4, 30 laps to go, and it's going to be Colton Davis getting out to a little bit of a lead, not what we've seen before, but Casey Kerwin, he's going to have a shot at Brad Davies, actually loses a position to Jesse Schwartz.
That was a really bad restart there from Brad Davies. I don't know if he intended to give it that spot. We got a big cluster of cars on the inside of 1 and 2. One car is around, but a lot of avoiding action. That is Patrick Mallett in the 13 who was around. He was down on the apron, so he stayed green, but a huge checkup and accordion effect in the middle of the field shakes up a large number of the field, but we stay green.
Looks like it was actually the 11 that got sideways. It was Jacob Harberts in the number 11 machine, the 20. They were 3 wide going into turn number 1. Got sideways. It was actually the 13 and Adam Benefield in 22.
Oh, here comes Brad coming down the back straightaway. He's making a move for second. Gets the move done. He's going to have P number 2. Can he make it 2 for 1 on this lap? Can he go from P3 to the race lead, working the inside? Coming off corner number 4 down the front straightaway. He's door to door, Colton Davis, and he wants to lead right now as we approach 30 to go.
Does Brad Davies have a McDonald's sponsorship? Because he just got a McPick 2 in the back straightaway. Brad Davies goes to the top of the leaderboard. It's going to be Casey Kerwin falling back into second. And goodbye, Brad Davies, with just closing in on 20 laps to go.
Fantastic move by that 28 machine. Full confidence knowing he'd be able to pick up those spots, and I think after seeing the sort of pace he has right now and the move he just made, I think that restart was intentional by him. Just wanted to get up into that outside groove and then be able to set these guys up, give himself a little bit of time. Now, this is the window Brad Davies needs to start opening up a gap, because we've seen on the restarts we've had tonight, get to about lap 122, lap 123, that 28 machine is going to drop off just a little bit and then should come back near the end of the run. So look for him to hopefully have good speed here and be able to open up a gap. If not, Casey Kerwin might be able to pounce and make something happen when that 28 machine starts to drop off.
And remember, when Brad Davies got caught by Jarl in the number 6 machine, Jarl 10, that is, whenever he got caught, he had enough time, Jarl did, to catch him by about 5 seconds. So if Brad Davies can even get out to a 2-second lead, that's going to put him in danger of Casey Kerwin, who we know has the ability to win at this level. And he's putting himself in a very good position to race for the Peak Antifreeze Series title for this time next year. Meanwhile, Colton Davis pulling a top 3 run out of a hat. He's doing a great job still running in that final podium spot.
And all of these drivers are going to really need these points. Brad Davies comes into this in 6th, 1,303 points. Bubble spot, 1,247. So he's only 60 points in the good coming into Darlington. Casey Kerwin, sort of similar story, 5th. Only about 100 points up ahead of Brad, so not quite as severe of a situation, but still wants more points to make it safe. And Colton Davis, he is 1 spot off the bubble coming in here tonight at 1,261 points, only 14 points ahead of Will Cooley, who came in into here tonight in 10th. So he wants good points here tonight as well. All these top 3, they need to sort of balance getting max points for the race win versus just getting solid points for finishing up amongst your front runners.
Oh, here comes Casey Kerwin. He made up 3.5 tenths that last time by. And I tell you what, the number 2 machine, he is getting hungry and he's chomping at the bit, seeing that number 28, the rear bumper, getting even bigger out the front windshield.
This is exactly what we were talking about. This is the panic time right now for Brad Davies. Last time he had this sort of situation happen, he had a 5 or so second lead that he was able to work with. This time, the lead is only out to about 2 seconds, so it's almost half, well, a little over half, in fact, of what he had before. Casey Kerwin within 0.4 of a second. Last time through, he reeled him in by 3 as they worked down the back straightaway into 3 and 4. What can Casey do? Does he have somehow, some way, he can pull this rabbit out of a hat as they roll through 3 and 4, and look at the way that orange and black number 2 machine reels in Davies through the back end of the racetrack.
2 car lengths now, the gap onto the front straightaway, lap number 119. When they come to the stripe, 2 laps from now, it'll be 14 laps to go. And that Casey Kerwin machine time is ticking for him to get past Brad Davies and scurry away before that number 28 machine comes back in. We're seeing the same song, second verse, as that 28 starting to lose time. But last time it happened, Jarl Tia was not able to pass him. But this time we may see a change for the lead before tonight's end. And then we may see another change if that number 28 machine comes back to him like we saw earlier.
Second verse, will it be the same as the first? And who in the world is going to be Henry VIII as they work themselves down in the back straightaway? Brad Davies has a mere full of Casey Kerwin, but seems like the pace may be evening out just ever so slightly as Casey not quite able to get down to that inside. Brad Davies gives him a bumper, gonna get a run, but down the front straightaway, still not quite able to get there. He needs to get down low, and I think Brad, realizing that this is such a single groove racetrack, if he can just run the fast line, almost no way for Casey to get by as Casey tags the fence, gets a little bit sideways, that he hurt the car there.
He's still got time. Kenny running back down. It's about 5 car lengths, but now they're inside 14 laps to go, running out of time. And the 2 machine of Casey Kerwin, I was going to say him braking there on entry actually helped his exit because he was able to drive it off a little bit straighter here. Gap was 1.5 tenths of a second, now back to half a second, but closing back in now. Casey Kerwin trying to get the job done and score another win and on the Pro Series season and push his way back into the points championship.
Everyone fighting for situations, people trying to get points, people trying to make themselves safe. Some people, they just want the bragging rights and saying, you know what, I won that Pro Series championship. It paid off last season. Driver who won that championship came through into this year, and it was a fantastic year, wasn't it, for Ryan Michael Luza? Can someone make the same sort of fairy tale end here going into 2018? Caution flies.
Caution is out here. Looks like Garrett Lowe spinning to the bottom side of the racetrack in turns 1 and 2. And is that the only crash that we have? Is the number 1 machine sideways? Looks about it. It actually came from in front of him. It looks like the number 21 machine got a little bit of a shot from the 17. Oh, what an aggressive move from Garugula in the number 17 machine. Is a big wreck happened in turn number 1.
I think, fortunately, not a lot of cars got big damage from that, but a lot of cars sort of all got tagged there, so I don't think we're going to lose anyone from that one, but just aggressive racing, and someone got half sent around, and number 1 machine really ended up being the big loser there. But this is going to reset the field here. We're going to be inside of 10 laps to go on this restart. And now the question asks, what do you do? Do you come down pit lane? Do you take 4 tires? Do you take 2 tires? Do you stay out? Mind game's already happening as Casey Kerwin, he's faking out Brad Davies. Also the 3rd place runner of Colton Davis, 15 machine, he goes down pit lane and he is alone thus far. A couple other drivers come down, but everyone else who stays out, they're going to make up the top 10, maybe top 15. So it's going to be hard work for those guys who opted to pull down pit road.
I feel like if Casey Kerwin came to pit road, he would have been able to bring everybody else with him and left Brad Davies out there by himself. But I think that may have just lost his opportunity. But we haven't seen old tires on a restart yet. So what can Brad Davies do after a heat cycle and those tires have cooled down?
That's going to be the big question mark, because we sort of started entering the phase on that last run where Brad would what we saw earlier in the race, where Brad would be able to eke out that advantage again. I think if you're Brad Davies, you have to look in your mirror, see all those cars that stayed out, and you have to be a very, very happy man. First car that's going to be coming off of pit lane is going to be starting in that 12th position. Brandon Pipgrass is going to be the last runner who stays out here. He currently rolls 11th. So knowing that you have 10 cars behind you is a bit of a buffer before you get those guys on new tires. That has to make that 28 machine feel really good as we're inside of a 10-lap run.
Just going to be a wait-and-see type situation. I hate to say it, but Cisco just reminded me, will we end up with a 2003 Dodge Dealers 400s type situation? Was it 2003? Maybe. Either way.
I think it was 04.
It may have been, may have not been, but either way. Yes, we're Cisco the historian confirming 03. We've got some.
Apparently it was 20,034 according to Cisco.
Anyway, we got ill-handling race cars. We got guys aggressive for their wins. Could we come down to the fact of who gets a better drive coming off the corners in the final few laps? And can Casey Kerwin put the move on him and get side by side coming to the line?
I think people are going to get really, really physical here. We've seen, you know, through the entire first about 2/3 of this race when we were under green, everyone was playing really, really nice with each other. But as we've gotten closer and closer to the finish of this motor race, this last 34 laps has gotten really, really physical out there. A lot more bumping, a lot more banging, a lot more people jockeying for position on the restarts, people not just giving people the up that top groove to let them slide up. This is going to be a very, very physical restart, and I would not be surprised if we do not finish this one under green.
You know, Randy, I actually expect to see a lot of give and take here on the restart.
Really?
Giving the bumper to somebody and taking the spot.
Yeah, that's probably to be expected.
These guys are starting to file up, double file here. A couple of cars, looks like they're just finishing up their pit stop, so a couple of guys trying just anything they can to get a little bit fresher rubber. Looks like 11th on back have tires. Excuse me, 12th on back. So that'll be something interesting to watch for. Can Jesse Swartz, what can he do? Can he get up a little bit farther? Because we've seen the 27, the 20, the 17, they all have a little bit of damage, and the 21 from that caution that happened a few minutes ago.
Yeah, this is... So much is on the table. It's so hard to predict what in the world is about to happen right now because we've seen that 28 machine be fast. Casey Kerwin has been really good. We know he can win at this level. Colton Davis. Also have Mitchell Hunt out there starting on the outside of that second row. What can he maybe make happen? If anyone throws a chrome horn, anyone could potentially win this thing. I'm a gambling man, but I'm not going to take a bet here tonight as we're going back to green.
You got to remember, if we get a caution within 5 laps to go, the race will be over with, but we do have a shot at another restart if they wreck within 2 laps. But we're not going to see that. We're going to see him race to the green flag. Horrible restart for the 2 machine. He tried to time it right. As they come to the start-finish line, Brad Davies pulls up. He's going to change lane before the start-finish line. There's no rule against it. He's going to dive off into turn number 1. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, turn the wall, car around.
Oh, big wreck behind him. Huge wreck. Caution is out. Looks like the Ford machine of Kevin King was involved. Looks like he was the main proprietor of that wreck. And we will get another caution. Meanwhile, a dive bomb move from Colton Davis puts him up in a second.
He's going to be really happy about that. Not quite sure what happened to Kevin King. Looks like it just sort of, it started out as a mistake on his own. He pushed really, really hard trying to get to the back of Nicholas Morrison. I think trying to check up and may have tagged the apron. That Ford machine got a little bit loose. And then Glenn Rockefeller, I think he took a big shot from Malik Ray. Malik drove in hard to 1 and nothing that Rockefeller could ever really do there. And Kevin King, nothing he could do as well. But a big incident in the mid-pack, about 10 or so cars involved.
And I want to know, how did the 8 machine get through that wreck?
Magic.
Okay, well, either way, we're going to get another restart here. All right, you said you weren't a gambling man. What's going to happen on this restart?
Probably some more of the same, to be honest. That's all I can really predict.
Well, we got a new driver up in the 16 machine. He's up in the 2nd spot now for the restart. So this will be the definitive last restart here. And yeah, I saw it in the comments and I was kind of half expecting it, but when you get drivers from 12th on back with new tires and then you get the rest of the drivers up front, kind of just it kind of happens like that.
This is going to be insane. This is not going to be a smooth restart under any means. We're going to be restarting, I believe, with 2 laps to go. So 2 laps, just just under 2.6 miles, just over rather 2.6 miles to decide this one. Boy, oh boy, I am thankful that I am up here and not in one of these cars having to fight, trying to get myself into the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series going into next season. I've done it before through some of the other championships. I've tried to get in the Block Pond GT Championship in the past, and I've been in these sorts of situations where you're close to being on the bubble. Maybe you and your team can get it done, and have one bad race, one bad week potentially can take you out of it. This is a very, very stressful situation for all these guys.
Should get the restart with about 2 laps to go. So let's update your top 10 here. Try and sort through who is where. Brad Davies, Colton Davis, Casey Kerwin, that remains unchanged from what we've said. Mitchell Hunt back up to the 4th position. Stephen Wilson rounds out your top 5. Jeremy Davis, Benjamin Nelson, Brayton Boulos in the 8th position. Jesse Swartz and Malik Ray. From being a lap down and getting in that last wreck right there, he got a little bit of damage from it, but that car's been beat up and chewed out. He started dead last, and somehow he's in the top 10.
And I don't know how he's done it, because we saw him have that big issue on pit road earlier on. Now, granted, he is sort of the one that caused that caution we just had come out. He basically just didn't stop going into 1, so he's going to have a lot of damage on that number 34 machine. It's going to, can Malik make something happen and maybe get it to the end? We have a couple cars that are limping around out there on the racetrack. I don't know who that is. I think Robbie Variable Jr. I think he just lost the motor and he's now bringing it down on towards that lane. But should be seeing lights out right here, and this is going to bring us to a 2 lap to go signal, and this thing is about to get really, really scary.
Drivers are forming up side by side, so this will be your final restart on the night. It's going to be a green-white checker finish to end the iRacing Pro Series race here at Darlington. Still 4 more events on the calendar, so it's nowhere near decided who's going to race their way into the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series and who's going to have a shot at winning the $10,000 grand prize. Brad Davies has felt the glory there here before, but I tell you what, it's going to be one heck of a show here. I'm not, like you said a second ago, I am not going to bet on any of these guys to take home the checker, because we've seen a heck of a lot. We've seen a heck of a lot worse happen, like leaders get taken out. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, we're going to have checker here in a couple laps, but I think we might be in for quite a bit of wrecker before we get to that point.
It's going to be Brad Davies, as he has been for pretty much the entire night. He's going to be your leader. He's going to check up here on the restart that's 16. He's going to actually get a good restart here, but here comes the 2 machine of Casey Kerwin. 2 laps to go at the line. They can get back to the white flag. We're going to finish this thing under the green flag, but we got to make it there. Brad Davies sails it off into turn number 1. Who's going to get the better exit coming off of 2? Casey Kerwin gets back to the gas.
Malik Ray's around.
Malik Ray is around. Your 10th place runner. Caution is out. And Brad Davies is going to win the race here at Darlington. He's just got to make it around for 1 more lap.
He's going to be a happy camper. Malik Ray, another aggressive move, the top side, and actually wasn't quite as full. Actually, he basically just drove himself up into the wall, and I think Malik, he got up into the wall, got tagged, got sent around, and I think that number 34 machine hit the incident limit because he's instantly disqualified. So unfortunate for Malik to be running in the top 10 and get no net result with Brad Davies. He's going to come around here shortly and take the win.
Yeah, I think Malik, he actually had no choice but to wreck there, because he got up into the outside wall, and immediately Kane Cook in the 27 was there. So it was either get spun to the inside or stay up on the outside wall and take out the drivers behind you. But either way, coming off of turn number 4, he led all night. We thought he was going to have a shot at getting beat, and the rest of the field was going to have a shot. But Brad Davies coming off of turn number 4, it's behind the pace car, but your first driver to hit the checkered flag is going to be the number 28 machine. Brad Davies wins it here at Darlington.
And what a happy camper he's going to be to come in, dominate, and especially to dominate a race like this. He didn't just win this race, he dominated this one the entire first, what, 2/3 of the race when we ran under green. No one even close to that number 28 machine. Unfortunately, a caution stacked things up and made it difficult for him. Comes in 6th in the points, about, you know, probably 400 out from where he'd like to start feeling really, really comfortable. And a win here tonight, that's going to make him a very, very happy camper going into the next handful of races.
Brad Davies going to come down and celebrate the win here. Casey Kerwin still gets the 2nd spot. I'm not sure if he got tightened or just let off because he knew the caution was going to come out. But either way, he's going to come home in the 2nd spot. Colton Davis rounds out your top 3. Mitchell Hunt and Jeremy Davis round out your top 5.
6th place here tonight, we're going to have Brandon Bula, Stephen Wilson, Jesse Schwartz, Ben Nelson, and Michael Guest.
Blade Witt, David Rattler, Tyler Hudson, Jake Nichols, and Jacob Harberts round out your top 15.
16th, you got Jarl Tien, 1 point, started 4th, running 2nd. He's going to be really upset that he got caught up in some trouble, got a black flag coming toward the end. He'll round out a 16th place finish. Patrick Mallett in 17th, Kane Cook 18th, Nathan Lyon 19th, and Brandon Pittgrass rounds out your top 20.
All these guys, few more drivers left on the lead lap, but these guys did not have the finish that they wanted. Nicholas Morris in the 21st position, Kevin King, Michael Garuglia in the 23rd spot, James Millenbacher in the 24th spot, Glenn Rockefeller in 25th. Malik Ray, as you just saw, brought out that final caution, was disqualified, so he'll bring it home in 26th. Adam Benefield had a bad race there in the number 27th spot. Robbie Rabiel Jr. in 28th. Garrett Lowe, James Curl, and rounding out your field, Dallas Pataska. Keegan Leahy, who started 2nd, had such a promising race going, but ended up getting taken out in the first caution. He comes home in 32nd. Blake Ryan in 33rd, and Michael Johnson rounds out your rounds out your 34 car field. Yeah, your top 34. That's a good way to soften the blow.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no way to soften the impact for Michael because that solo incident about 100 laps ago, there was nothing he could do to get that 26 machine back out on the racetrack. He's not going to be too happy running away from this week with a dead last finish.
Unfortunate for him, but I tell you what, one driver who's going to come away with a smile on his face, the number 28 machine, Brad Davies. We'll talk to him and a few other drivers of your top 3 when we come back from the commercial. We'll be right back here on LSRTV, the home for sim racing.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
Welcome back here to Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina. Brad Davies walks away with the victory. Fortunately, he's not here right now. We're going to try and get a hold of him before tonight's broadcast is over. But Casey Kerwin comes home in the second spot. We're going to talk to the driver in the number 2 machine. Casey, you walk away with the second spot. We thought you were going to have a very good shot there when Brad's car started going away in the early going of that last run, but it just didn't work out for you. Are you happy with the second position after tonight?
Oh, for sure. We struggled all week. I struggled all week with figuring this track out in the new build still and getting things set up right for the whole run. And, Brad was just insanely fast all race. And then I guess the track kind of came to us there. I think we had a really good shot at winning if that caution wouldn't have come out whenever I was out front. But came out and Colton got me, and then Brad got around us. And I started running Brad down there, and my spotter, Brandon Wilkinson, was just keeping me calm, and got close to him into one there and just overdrove a little bit and knocked the wall down. I think I might have been able to set him up before the caution came out if I hadn't have done that. But all in all, just we survived the last 3 starts, which I was a little worried about, and just happy to have a P2 going into the break.
Now, me and Randy talked about this under the final pit stops under the caution with about 20 laps to go. Did you ever consider pitting there? Because we saw from, I think Jesse Schwartz was the first driver to come to pit road, and then about from 12th on back came to pit road. Did you ever think about trying to coax everybody to come to pit road with you and leave Brad Davies out there?
Yeah, I wanted to do that, or I was thinking we needed to pit, but Houston Hamer, my crew chief, said we just need to follow the leader, do what he does. And he stayed out, we stayed out, and thankfully about 10 other people stayed out behind us. So ended up working out for us, and just getting a solid finish, which is what we needed.
Okay, so far coming in tonight, you're 400 points behind Nicholas Shelton, but you are to the good. You're running in 5th in the point standings in this little race right here. This good finish will set you up well. But when we come back, it'll be 2018, the 10th, Sonoma. How are you on the road courses?
We'll find out. I've never really been all that good on the road courses. I'm very happy at Sonoma rather than Watkins Glen. I'm way better at Sonoma than I am Watkins Glen. But we'll see. The new build, you have to drive them completely different, save tires differently, set them up differently. So we'll see. I'm not really sure. It's we're just shooting in the dark, really.
So between Sonoma and Watkins Glen, it's a little bit of a lesser of 2 evils?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, Casey. Well, we're going to let you go here and celebrate your second place finish, but anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I just got to thank everyone at Dead Zone Racing, Houston Hamer, John Powell, Michael Gariglia for just getting a good set built and working on it all week, even though I was struggling with the track, and sticking with me. And I got to thank Brandon Wilkinson on the spotter stand, keeping me calm and cool all race, and John Dragonetti for the awesome paint scheme.
All right, okay, so we're going to let you go here and let Michael know that we are sorry for mispronouncing his name for the entirety of tonight's race. We will try and get a handle on that.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
All right, Casey, congratulations. Now I'm going to send it to Randy Chenoweth. He's down there with the number 16 machine at Colton Davis.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Colton Davis. But don't worry, Michael, by the way. You're not the only one who gets his name mispronounced. I'm in that battle as well. But, Colton, good third-place finish tonight. You came into this one just on the inside of the points bubble, just 14 points ahead of that 10th spot. Get a fantastic podium finish tonight. That has to feel good as you head off into the tricky segment of races making up the last half of the schedule.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. This race was a big help in points, knowing that we have a little bit more of a cushion going into these last 4 races.
And talking about that, we've gotten some big updates to all the stock car style stuff on the sim. Big aero updates. Some stuff has changed with the tires. Atlanta last week would have been your first real taste. Actually, no. Would this week have been your first run with it? Or would it have been Atlanta?
It was at Atlanta.
Atlanta. So what all of you guys learned, new compared to the old car? What's changed? What's different? What do you like? What do you maybe dislike? How are they running on the new build?
Well, Every single car I like. I think it's fun to actually have to drive the car rather than hot lap it every lap. But I haven't really figured anything out other than just be easy on the tires and make sure they last the entire run.
Now, for you coming in, like we said, just on the outside of that points threshold, good finish tonight should bump you up somewhere in the middle realm of that pack of drivers. But with tracks coming up like Sonoma, Richmond, Dover, then of course Daytona to make it to the end, there any point where someone in your position gets comfortable, or is there any point you start feeling a little bit safe, or is it always feeling like you're on thin ice and one false step will make you fall through?
You know, you never want to get too comfortable unless you're 100% sure that you're locked in. So it's always go one race at a time and make sure you get the most out of every single race.
Well, thanks for joining us, Colton. Congratulations on the big podium finish tonight. Before we let you go, any shout-outs? Who do you like to thank?
I'd like to thank JSM for supporting me this entire Pro Series. Last week we started working with Robbie Vrabel and APC, and they've really helped us on this new build. And K1 Speed and Race Like a Pro Simulators.
All right, well, thanks again, Colton. Good luck for you through the second half of the championship and your campaign getting into the 2018 NASCAR Peak Entry Series.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm going to throw it back over to Mr. Gabe Wood. You're stood by with fourth place finisher, Mr. Mitchell Hunt.
Down here on pit road with your fourth place finisher, Mitchell Hunt. You know, you always hear about drivers being Mr. Where did he come from? Well, Mitchell is the opposite of that. It's Mr. He was always there. Quiet night for you, Mitchell. He's never really strayed outside the top 5. Did you know coming in that you'd have this good of a car?
During testing, yeah, it felt pretty good. I guess in the race, we weren't too sure, but once we nobody had anything for Davies. He was just class of the field by far. So whatever he's doing, it's working. But the car was good. Everyone spent a lot of time on it. I'm just glad it was close to default weather. So anything colder, we probably would have been screwed.
Yeah, me and Randy talked all night about Brad Davies just running away with it. Really, can you take anything away from that? I mean, kind of hints that he may have given you, or things that you saw about the attitude of the car that you can kind of put in your back pocket for the next time that you come here.
No, not at all. I wasn't even close to him to see him, so I'll just take fourth and run with it, and I'll be happy with that.
It's kind of a deal where you ride in somebody's tire tracks, and it's like, oh, well, he's gone. All right, well, there goes that.
Yeah, pretty much. I know, I guess the first part of the run, when we first started, I don't know, I guess he was just I don't know if he was backing off or just how his set was, but I guess he got to a little gap, then fell back a little bit, and then just kind of took off after that, so if anything was in that gap, maybe somebody would have had someone for him, but other than that, he was pretty much deserved to win, and glad he got it.
All right, well, one final question, a little bit off topic here. Randy and I were talking earlier in the race. We saw the guys like Malik Ray get into a lot of trouble on pit road because of the new animations. It's a lot tighter tolerance for getting into your pit stall. Have you found any trouble with that, or have you kind of found a sweet spot to get on pit road?
Yeah, it's definitely tricky at times, especially now. I know this race getting in the pits, the tires were super slick, just trying to slow down. I know I almost overshot it once under green flag stops, and I was literally surprised it even stopped to change the tires on my car. It was that close, but it's tricky. You can't be too far left, too far right, so you just kind of find a sweet spot and just kind of really ease in there. You can't really just throw the car in there.
All right, well, before we let you go here, anybody want to thank?
Yeah, I just got to thank all the guys at Spec spent the time in. I know Nick spent a lot of time on the set, and he was pretty much the one that found the speed out of it, and we just drove it. Kind of did my changes here and there, got a little bit more out of it, but other than that, it's pretty good work. I know everyone over there, we at least had a top 5 car. Just wish we all could have finished up in there.
Well, congratulations to you, and I'm going to throw it back to Randy. I believe he's caught up with, look through here, I believe it's Colton Davis.
Jeremy Davis,
excuse me. We got too many Coltons and too many Davis.
Oh, we got too many Davises. I was confused with that for a second as well, but I'm stood by that 21 machine of Jeremy Davis. And Jeremy, you have to be a pretty happy camper in that 21 machine. Started in the 17th spot and managed to round up a top 5. how'd that 21 car and how'd you manage to do it? Was it just avoiding a lot of that trouble that happened toward the end of the race, or did you just sort of quietly sneak your way up to the front?
Well, honestly, we were pretty out of control the entire night in our Team LSRTV Chevy, but we tried really hard to just keep our track position. I really didn't have much to start. We were about, like you said, 17th at the start. I faded backwards, and then eventually we got up, and there was a yellow, and I had not pit yet. I think a lot of cars had pit, and they got caught in the wave around line. And I ended up around 6th or 7th, and at that point, we just maintained from there to the end, and we got lucky because there was a couple close calls. I do want to apologize to Michael Guerrilla because I was trying to let him go. I told him to go low on the front stretch, and I think he either didn't hear me or didn't understand, and he hit me in the left rear, and I think it might have ruined his race. So I do want to apologize about that, but I did try to let him go. But yeah, other than that, we were out of control. I want to thank my teammate, my Team LSRTV teammate, and he finished 11th Blade Wit. He did a good job getting through there as well. So.
And now, Jeremy, I mean, you spent a lot of time in the mid-pack. Other drivers we've talked to tonight, they pretty much spent their entire race up amongst the top 5, top 10. How were things in that mid-pack, top, outside the top 10, near the top 20? Because, things got relatively spread out for your race leaders, but seeing a little bit tighter there in the middle part of the field. Is that how it felt in that number 21 machine, or you managed to slot yourself into a maybe nice gap and avoid some of the pandemonium?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was out of control pretty much after 10 laps, but I felt like cars, if one car was holding up a big group of cars, there was going to be a checkup at some point that everyone was going to have to react to. And if that first car checks up, then that second car and third car, and it's just a chain reaction. And it was really tough at times when that happened, on restarts especially. But once things got spread out, like you said, at the front of the pack, things were pretty easy to judge. I was just, like I said, after 20 laps into a run, our car was just out of control, and it was just there was no grip out there for me at least. But we got lucky with a top 5. You're going to have good and breaks, ups and downs throughout the season, and we had one top 10 this year, so this is our second. And we're just going to keep fighting towards that cut line. I mean, anything can happen over these next 5 weeks.
Well, thanks for joining us, Jeremy. Hope you have a good bit of luck coming your way, coming through the last half of the championship. Maybe get yourself into that cut line. Before we let you go, any shout outs? Anyone you'd like to thank?
I just want to thank my teammate, Team LSRTV teammate Blade Wit. He finished 11th. He's been fighting hard with me all year long, and we've stuck with it, and we're going to keep fighting until the end. And just thanks for LSRTV to have the broadcast up.
We always appreciate it. Gabe, back over to you.
All right, well, looks like we've run out of drivers to talk to here, and it's all been interesting conversations, and really the entire consistent conversation of the night was I was never even close enough to Brad Davies to learn what he was doing or learn what the car was doing. Brad Davies, even though the scoring will show that he only finished a 10th in front of Casey Kerwin, that definitely does not tell the story of the night here, Randy. Final thoughts before we go?
It was a really good run. Brad had a absolute, I don't know what they hit on, but it was absolutely flawless. And it's going to be really, really interesting to watch these cars next week at Sonoma. We've seen the big updates, and we've gotten a few races and at some of the bigger ovals. We got Atlanta a couple weeks back, and then Darlington tonight, of course. But we've not seen these new cars. These cars with the new tire model on them running out Sonoma. That's going to be an interesting one, and just a wild card in and of itself. There's going to be a lot of these guys that really, really struggle, I think, and maybe someone who's sort of lurking on the outside can come away, get themselves a really big race, maybe even get a big win, and suddenly up-boost their championship hopes and hope to sneak into the top 10 towards the end of things.
Yeah, and that's really, you want to go for the championship here, but there's also just the prestige of being in the top 10. You want to get up there, you want to run well, you want to win, but you have to think big picture. What are you in the Pro Series to run for? You're not there for, to call yourself a Pro Champion. You're there to call yourself a peak antifreeze series driver. That's what every iRacing Oval guy wants to do whenever he first gets onto the service. And there's a couple of these guys that are well on their way. Brad Davies, as I said multiple times, he's been there before and he wants to get back. Casey Kerwin, Colton Davis, Mitchell Hunt, they're all caliber drivers to run up front here and run well in the Peak Antifreeze Series. So that'll be one thing to look out for, not only when we finish out the Pro Series season, but to look forward to in 2018.
Yeah, and of course all those new names as well. It's going to be interesting to see, especially with the build update coming midway through the championship. Big things getting shuffled around the way it is, and I can't really wait. I've been sort of similar to you. I've been sort of keeping a corner of my eye on this Pro Series, been looking at who's been doing well and who hasn't, and it's going to be a hectic last month or so of racing until we get to Daytona.
Well, on behalf of all of us here at LSRTV, for our producer, the always lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza, for myself, Gabriel Wood, and Randy Chenworth, this has been LSRTV, the iRacing Pro Series live from Darlington. Brad Davies walks away with a victory, and now we go enjoy the holidays for a little while. We'll be back in 2018 for Sonoma, and to round out the Pro Series schedule and to find out who's going to make the cut on the road to the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series season. I want to thank all of you for watching us. Join us in the new year, and we'll be right back here on LSR TV. Good night.